Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. The LIFE program is one of the most popular EU funding schemes. Administered by the European Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency, the program is funding primarily 1. Pilot and demonstration activities related to sustainable technologies, and 2. Securing that EU sustainability measures is integrated in national, regional, and local policies. Many working with Horizon Europe within these areas will be familiar with the program. Of course, the grant will also zoom in on this funding scheme. As always, I start out with the authoritative, the grant introduction to the funding scheme. For this, I have invited LIFE program expert and environmental knowledge area coordinator Maite Zazpe Cenoz from grants and innovation consultancy company Zabala Innovation Consulting into the virtual podcast studio to take us all through the key elements of the program, how to apply, eligibility conditions, and so on. As with all my funding scheme introductions, this became a long one, so it is divided into 2 episodes. In this first half, we cover the structure of the funding program, the target groups, and funding rates. This episode is essential for all working with the LIFE program or who are thinking about approaching it. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Today, I will, together with a guest, introduce yet another funding scheme. Now, EU funding, the EU funding area is a bouquet, it's a forest, it's an ocean of different funding schemes. And it is my discourse, it's part of the discourse of this initiative to slowly open them up one by one. And the one we're going to have a look at today, it's one of the more substantial ones, of course. Horizon Europe is the big animal on the savannah, but this one is one of the really large ones just beneath Horizon Europe when it comes to size. Before I say anything else, I have a guest, I have an expert on the program. Maite, welcome.
Thank you so much, Niels.
Lovely to have you on board. It's sort of opened up Zabala, your dear colleague Margarita. She made another introduction to another funding program, the European Defence Program, the European Defence Fund. And she referred me to you as a person, as a professional who's been working a lot with what we're going to talk about today and not keeping listeners in oblivion. We talk about the LIFE program today, a program that many of you out there are indeed working with if you're also listening to my programs on Horizon Europe. Now, it's going to be a long one today. The funding scheme introductions, they have a tendency to become a little long, but that's only natural because, of course, this is the authoritative programs on specific funding programs, right? So before we read so far, can you share a little bit more with us about your experience and on EU grants and funding?
Thank you so much, Niels, and it's a pleasure to be here talking with you. Yes, and well, related, yes, my experience, I have experience with LIFE program since more or less 12 years ago, and in European funding programs like approximately 15 years ago. Currently, I am working in Zabala Innovation, that's a consultancy firm and I work in Spain, in the office of Spain, because well, this company has different offices in Europe, and since 12 years ago. And basically, I have been working in environmental programs, okay, usually in live program, but also in Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe fund and Horizon Europe funding related with environmental calls or topics. And also in my past jobs, also I have been working also with environmental programs.
Mm-hmm. That's a long time you've been sitting with Zabala.
Yes, maybe too much time, maybe.
No. You know what? I wish I could have said the same. That like I loved the first job I had with this. So I would have loved to keep it, but it's just like some careers they just shift like this. No, but I'm happy because the grants consultancy sector is a rough one. But the talk I had with Margarita shared with me that Zabala seems to be one of the. There is a certain focus on making sure that people they're not getting burnouts and getting too roughly used. There's sort of a discourse in the company. So it sounds like that it's doable in Zabala. It seems like you're taking good care of your colleagues there.
Yes.
But nonetheless, no matter how much you take care of your of your employees within this sector, it's rough. So 12 years, I'm impressed. That's wonderful, and it also gives a lot of solidity to what we're going to talk about today, because you have a lot of experience from the private side.
Yeah.
Let's get going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could go. Yes.
Yeah. Let's hit the button on the program, because so the live program, fly-in, short overall intro. How long has this existed? Do you know?
Yes. It exists from 1992. This program, yeah, and here in Zabala, well. Before I entered to Zabala, Zabala also submit proposals to this program, okay, since 20 years ago. So, yeah, it's a long period. Yeah.
And now I don't expect that you would know the background of why they introduced the program, but obviously, obviously, it is. Well, obviously, this resides under the DG environment, right?
Yeah. At the now it's the European Commission that the organism that is managed this is CINEA now.
Okay. Yeah. And it was why it has not been merged with the framework programs is probably a political issue, because when they did this exercise back in when they made Horizon 2020, several funding schemes were merged because the Commission wanted to make it, from the beneficiary's point of view, more simple to access funding programs for research, innovation, research development, and innovation. But somehow the life program managed to keep themselves out of it. But there is a lot of overlapping elements in relation to Horizon 20 to Horizon Europe, right? But the key element here, it's that on the technology side, it's more demonstration and piloting of technologies than it is to actually research and development, right?
Yeah, you are right. This program is the unique one from the European Commission that it's focused only in environmental, nature, and climate change, and it's the philosophy behind this is that, for example, if you don't find any specific topic in Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe that could fit, your project idea, and it's related with environment or nature, life could be a good program. Okay, in that case is that you don't know, for example, or you don't find any other European program for that. But it's completely focused on demonstration activities.
Yeah, it's you cannot get money for research.
No.
No.
In this program, you could not get. I mean, it's not eligible, or I mean, it's not well evaluated if you submit something related with research. Okay, because research activities are not funded within this program. Okay, this program is more related with demonstration activities.
Exactly, and and then it has this funny. It has this characteristic of you have sort of two sides of the funding scheme, right? You have the technology side, demonstration of making pilot scale project stuff like this, and then you have the policy. Now you have this, making sure that policies of the commission is sieves into all levels, regional, local, municipal. You have this part of it, and so you have these two sides with policy and technology, sort of. Now, any other things we because now we took it in the same go with the flying and also EU Commission. So EU Commission's policies and priorities with life. It is what we just said, right? So they guess the idea is that you have the big Horizon Europe, right? That where you put a lot of money into beneficiaries to do the hardcore research and innovation. You're like, and then here, when you come out of that, you have a possibility for the next step where the commission, okay, now you can actually get a little bit of money also for the piloting demonstration, and we also need the policies to move here on some different things. So that's sort of the if you zoom out on the logic on the program, right?
Yes. As you said, yes, there are like two sides, no? The technological part, okay, and the policy one. So it is expected that in the LIFE program, the ideas that or the proposals that should be submitted should be related with any technology, product, or service that could solve a relevant environmental problem in Europe. Okay, so this is the basis. Within this, or consider this, also an important point, as you said, is to it is very important to try to influence or change or the policies or the legislation. Or, for example, if there is now some European directive that nobody is accomplished, I don't know why, maybe because it's they don't know how to implement this policy or this directive. This program is also for that, no? To be as a reference example in Europe, or how this policy could be implemented, or also if a policy needs to be updated or something, this is the program for that. But all the proposals should address both issues, no? A technological solution or product or service, new service, and also the policy one. Also something that it's quite important, because in the past, in the very old times, this program was completely focused on environment, okay, to achieve like a relevant environmental impact in Europe, no, with a new technology or with a new product. But currently, it is also very much focusing also in economic feasibility of the solution, not only in the environmental part, okay, because it's very important, but also the solutions that should be proposed here should be also economical feasible.
Which is fine in line with Horizon Europe and the stronger focus on impact and not pissing taxpayers' money away on projects that end in nothing, right? So this focus on getting actual results. So you can see this if you are if you're so lucky that you work within the scope of bioeconomy and circular economy, environmental technologies, and so on. Then here you have a space to further lift you into the market before you go to.
Yeah. The idea is to submit close to market projects, no, in some sense, in order to put new product services in the market, no, in the European market. This is something that has been very relevant in this new program in Life 2021 until 2027, no.
Yeah. And then, but maybe we just they also changed. Now you mentioned it, that which things have changed, but maybe also they have opened up for instance, energy projects. But that's already back in the last period, right?
Yeah.
Because the period before that it was much environment, but then suddenly they started opening up for energy I think I've seen ocean energy or tidal energy technologies being funded by Life back in the beginning of the tens, which where I was surprised working with. Oh, are they also moving that way? I didn't. So it's they've sort of slowly moved into having a more broad definition of what is environment and climate related technologies,
Yes.
right? It's not just
Yes.
cleaning little streams, or securing that the farmers, they don't use too much pesticides or whatever.
Yes. It's a very complex program, okay, because it's this year we have like 32 calls inside this program. So I mean, it's not easy to understand the program because you have a nature and biodiversity program, also circular economy and quality of life. Also, you have to consider standard action projects, strategic integrated projects. There are also new call this year related technical assistance for replication projects. So there are so many typology of life projects, and also different subprograms. No, so it's quite complex to understand it. Yeah.
It is, and let's just let's not walk around the purge anymore, Maite. Let's try to give it a go with opening up and folding it out and trying to explain how it works. Because indeed, I've been a facilitating part myself with this work with this program, and it is. You need to keep your tongue straight in the mouth, as we say in Danish. You need to you need to be quite focused when you sit and read through, to understand how it actually works. But let's have a look at the structure of the program. So, right, you've been giving many presentations on the funding scheme. What's how do you start to explain this?
Well, yes, I have used to make these kind of presentations, to customers. Also, well, we carry out a webinar here in Spain, no, related this program. But we present the structure that there is like two sub-program, two fields of thematics, that is environment and climate, and inside then there are four sub-programs, no, that are in the environment. You could find nature and biodiversity and circular economy and quality of life. And in the climate one, you could find climate change mitigation and adaptation and clean energy transition. Well, this is related with the four sub-programs of this of the LIFE program. Okay, but inside this LIFE program, you could find the standard action projects, the strategic integrated projects, the technical assistance projects also, and other action grants. So it is quite complex to understand the structure, no?
So just to sort of, so you have four pillars.
Yeah.
And the four pillars, they are in pairs, so to say.
Yeah.
So the environment pair, you have two, and in the climate pair, you have two. Pair. And in each of these, you have sub bullets, so to say, of you have
of
the nature. It's a little bit like
yes,
in Horizon
yeah.
Europe, where you have a coordination and support action,
Mhm.
or research projects, or research and innovation. So you
Mhm.
have categories under there that defines what you can do,
Yeah.
right? Of the
Yes.
characteristics of the project.
More or less, more because, well, more or less, yes. You have, as you say, these four main pillars or thematic, no, subprograms, and then you have different typologies. Standard action projects is the most common or usual ones. Okay, that you
Hmm.
could have this category in the environmental and circular economy, in the nature and biodiversity, and also in the climate change mitigation and adaptation. You could find
Hmm.
this kind of projects.
Yes, and in this group,
Yeah.
this is where you find the where you can apply for funding 2 to 3 million euros. It used to be like that.
Yeah, it used to be like that, but it could be more even because, well, we have seen as a trend in the last years that big projects are welcome to this call. If the impact is very well justified, no, and the budget
Hmm.
and so on, but it could be possible to find projects of 5, 6, or 7 million euros of budget funded.
If you can justify
Yeah,
it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Exactly. And this is the trick with life, you
Yeah,
have sort of a recommended amount that you can apply for, and it used to be more strict. It used to be more
yeah,
of a threshold
yeah,
earlier. Now, what I want to say is that this is, as Maite just explained, you dear listeners, this is where most the volumes, like number of projects get funding, because this is where you get funding for testing technologies, demonstrated
yeah,
technologies. And so this is where you have a lot of where the private sector goes. Research, so universities, they don't like this program because they
yeah.
this is for companies mostly.
Yes,
So
yes.
this is where you can, as a company, and a hand, maybe normally it's not big consortiums, but this is where you sit down together, carry out a specific test demonstration project before you supposed to go to the market. And this
Yeah.
is with the majority of products.
Yes, yes. It's like, as you said, no? Usually, yeah, private companies are interested in this kind of projects, maybe, yeah, some university or, but also you could find like some specific priorities that could be for interest for public authorities. It's possible
Hmm.
to find also that. And these projects are more related with, yes, with a new technology, a new product, but also there are what we call governance projects, no?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
this is, well, this is inside these standard action projects, but are much more less than the typical ones, and those projects are focused more on change, for example, the behavior on consumers in some, I don't know, in
Mhm.
for example, if in order to generate less waste at home, for example, or things like that.
Uh, uh, Yeah. So this is, so now everybody out there, you need to listen tight here.
Yeah.
to get to yeah. So you have this first category, and we
Yes.
just explained you that this is where the majority is. This is where
Yeah.
you either do technologies, or where you can do governance project, where you can work with a specific policy in
Mhm.
relation to environment or climate, spreading it together with other municipalities, for
Yeah.
instance, or regions throughout Europe. Do we move on to the next category type now, Mike? The strategic.
Yes, we could move to the, because this is like the main issues now of the standard action projects, and then
Hmm.
the next category will be strategic integrated projects. Yeah.
Hmm. And they're big. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this is really also a big category. You could find here strategic nature projects and strategic integrated projects. And these projects are focused on public authorities. Okay, this is,
Uh,
I don't know if you know, Niels, about this program. Have you?
I know of former of old contacts,
Okay.
sister offices in the Danish regional office group that started strategic projects up for local authorities in Denmark, and they have built on top of that was big, and now they have. I actually know that they just received funding for a national strategic project under life, working with water.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
environmental related, but
yeah.
it's yeah.
Yeah, here it's related. For example, a region has developed a plan, for example, related climate adaptation, no, to this region, and they have developed a new plan. So, in order to implement this plan, the regional public authority could submit a proposal here in the strategic integrated projects. So these projects are very large, also in budget, but also in time. And
Uh-huh.
it's to address a part because, I mean, for example, a regional adaptation, climate adaptation plan could be very broad, but it's to implement part of this plan, no?
Yeah, it's also in the proposal is very big,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
as far as I
proposal, yeah,
understand.
yeah. Here it's in the strategic integrated projects, the proposals are submitted in two steps: in a concept note and then the full proposal. Yeah.
We'll get back to that. How that works. No. That's a strategic. What's the next one?
The next one, technical assistance projects.
Yes. Share with us. What's that, Maite?
Here you could find here the technical assistance for preparation of strategic integrated projects. That here it's quite interesting because, for example, if a region would like to have some support for the preparation of these large-scale projects, you could ask for this technical assistance. That it's, I think, a budget of 100,000 euros, more or less. So it's a
So
small amount that, but it could be very interesting because it helps you to prepare the strategic integrated proposal.
it's sort of a feasibility study.
Yeah, yeah. And
So it's a little bit like Elena.
yeah, yeah. This is to prepare a help, not to prepare this large proposal. And also here in this category, this year, CINEA has launched the technical assistance for replication. Okay, this is a new call of this 2023 and is related with the replication and scaling up of results from previous life funded projects. Okay, so
So not necessary. So of course, now you mentioned that you could apply for this sort of a pretext for a larger application for the strategic projects, but it's also meant as a source of money if you want to do a collaboration, not necessarily funded by the commission. We're saying we need the technical study here to understand what to do with this area. I guess, yeah.
This is related with, for example, if you have you are a coordinator, no, and you have submit like 4 years ago a proposal and it has been granted, and you just last year you have finalized your project, no, and your project has successful results and could be replicated, for example, in other regions or in other sectors. So this technical assistance for replication, it's to apply for coordinators of these previous life projects that this money could be used only in replication of the results, okay, obtained in the life. I don't know how this is going to, if this new call is going to be successful or not. No, this is the first year that they launch it.
Okay.
So we will see.
Are there more subcategories?
Yeah, other category is the other action grants. That is the life clean energy transition. Okay, that it's related with the coordination and support actions in renewable energies. And also there is the policy and legislative priorities, that this is like a minor typology of a live project that is very focused on legislation and policy priorities of Europe.
Okay. Are these? I don't remember them.
No, because this is new. This is,
Okay.
and these are like topics like very specific. Okay, it's quite similar like Horizon Europe. No, that it's in these policy and legislation priorities, CINEA gives like very specific details of the topics that needs to be addressed. Okay, and this year was related the Bauhaus and different things. Okay, but yeah.
All right. The thought I have, Maite, is that when we should have a talk about how the work program is structured when you read it, because it's quite specific. It's a multi-annual program. You have it's the you have sort of calls are sort of just bullets.
Well, in the work program or in the guidelines, I mean, you could find like the specific priorities, no, of the different sub-programs, basically. Okay, that what I think it should be remarkable to say is that the priorities don't change like so much one year and another year, and so it's important to know that, for example, next year the priorities are going to be the same of this year. Okay, so it's something that it's very interesting for example, if you submit now a proposal and it is not funded, you could apply again next year. So it's something that it's important in this call, because in Horizon Europe, you have no chance, no, sometimes to submit it again something.
No, because you have different grant types also in the program. So maybe that's also part of the structure of how the program works and does it like support tools, so to say. So you have the grants, the classic grants, but then you also have prizes.
The grant, well, related the grants, basically it's 60% for more or less all the typologies, okay, but well, we have exceptions, okay, because in the case of nature and biodiversity, standard action projects, it could be up to 75%, okay, and it happens the same to the clean energy transition, that it's until 95%, okay. And also in the case of the policy and legislative priorities is 90%. Basically, 60% for most of them, but with some exceptions.
Before we will namely get back to the funding rates themselves, but what I just realized is that the funding program has elements of, you have grants and you have procurement and then you have prices and you have technical assistance to support investment. So it's just how much do you know of these different financial tools that they have put into the program?
Yeah, well, basically it's a grant, okay, that you could find a grant, but also there is a specific life typology that it's operation grants, okay, that is another typology that it's like another financial instrument that is focused on non-profit entities. And also it's possible in standard action projects and also strategic integrated projects to include in the budget like financial support to third parties. Also it's possible that, but with a maximum of 100,000 euros.
All right. Let's have a short talk about the typical project activities that the program is funding, because now we've been actually walking around and sharing a little bit about, but maybe in a little bit more structured way. So if we look at the standard actions, what does it fund? So we mentioned here that they don't fund research.
Yeah. That it's very important. Yes.
So typical project activities if you take technology projects,
Mhm.
that's demonstration. So they would fund equipment, like they would fund activities where you would need a handful of partners to carry out. You could also do it yourself
Mhm.
in life. That's important to mention. But it's to carry out a specific demonstration activity and demonstrate that this is a solution that is viable.
Yes, commonly, well, as we comment, no, research could not be funded by life programs, so it's very important to take care when you design your proposal, no, that maybe you could include like some preparatory activities, no, that could be to fine tune this laboratory test, but you could include only a very very small part, no, related this. Um, Also, for in the case of large infrastructures projects are also not funded here in life. If you would like to build up like a large infrastructure for something, I don't know, a green roof or something very large, it could be not
Mhm.
funded also by life project. A
Mhm.
good thing that for companies, for example, is that Mm, like 4 years ago, more or less, now in the past, you include only the depreciation of the equipment, okay? But
Yeah.
now it's possible to include the whole equipment if you are going to use it for the same purpose of the project 5 years later of the project end or until the life of the equipment. So it's
Mhm.
very interesting for companies, no, that could include the whole equipment, no, the budget of the equipment, the cost, the
Uh-huh.
total cost, not only the
Uh,
depreciation. So it's something that I think that the life program change in order to incentivize that companies uh, or industry be more interested in this program also.
uh, if we look at the governance projects, that's of course man hours for it's often civil servants,
Yeah.
naturally. So that's meeting activities, that's workshop activities, it's dissemination activities, I guess. It's exchange, knowledge sharing activities, right?
Yeah, related the governance projects. Yes,
Yeah,
it could be like, for example, to carry out surveys or interviews. For
yeah,
example,
yeah.
this is a common activity in order, I don't know, to understand why the consumers, for example, have this consumption pattern in one, for example. Also, it could be, yes, like workshops or dissemination and communication. It's really very important, not only in this governance project, also in in all the typologies of project. This is something that it's quite different from Horizon Europe. I mean, a live program used to have a very professional dissemination and communication or demand very professional dissemination and communication activities. If
Yeah.
you go through the live page, you could see like videos and it's something that maintains today, no? But in the past it was very important and also keeps very important, remains very important.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know if you have checked it a little bit. This in the web page, you could see like dissemination, typical dissemination material, no, of a live
Nope, nope.
project, but they have like you could find like a very creative dissemination and communication actions. You could see that maybe in a project they make like a short film or they contact like, for example, I don't know, sport. Well, for example, sport people that have win rice, for example, in a region, and they are like, and he's like an ambassador of this project or things like very with a lot of social impact, no?
Mhm. That's good. It's one of the key, discourse of the commission to like the next steps,
Yeah.
because they're quite keen on getting something out of the money that they invest in these things. So no, I think structure of the program, I put here call round frequency. I don't think the classic live project, we just sort of had a talk about that, so that's fine. But call round frequency, how is it? Is it once per year? How is it?
Yeah.
Or how do they fall?
Yeah, it's one per year. Yeah, and now still open the Life Clean Energy Transition that closed next 16 November. But the bad thing, Niels, is that this year, for example, the Standard Action Project closes in September, at the beginning of September for environmental.
No.
So it was. This is a bad news. because
But this is you know what, and regular listeners of this podcast know that this is one of my discourses of this podcast. This is one of the opinionated parts of the podcast. I loathe the fact that you have civil servants in the commission that put deadlines for funding schemes right after holidays.
Yeah.
One thing is the summer holiday. That's bad enough, but they also have regularly deadlines right after Christmas.
Yeah.
And these people, they know very well how intensive it is to prepare proposals for the programs that they are administrating. It is. I do not have words for how cynical I find this approach. Really, it's something this is a spare time initiative, but if it was a full-time initiative, if I was earning money on doing this and had it as a job, I would indeed make a campaign, and I would campaign against this until something would happen with the dates, because I find it absolutely, I have to take care about my words, but it's not correct. It's simply not correct.
No, it's horrible at all. Yeah, because so we don't know what is going to happen next year, but I mean it's this year. I mean it's very difficult to work like this. Yeah, when you have a deadline 5 September. Yeah.
Now, so let's just the commission. If you're listening out there, anyone related to the departments that sit and determine when we're supposed to submit proposals for your funding schemes, don't stop it. Stop this right now. After holidays, after summer holiday, after Christmas, don't stop it. You cannot have toast all kinds of big events, European mental health week, where you how much the European Commission is caring about our mental health, when you put people through something like this during their holidays, where they're supposed to be with their loved ones and their friends and families and so on, and recharge their batteries. Then you put them to work, thousands and thousands and thousands of people throughout Europe, to heavy, stressful work. It's not just sitting and 9 to 5 here. It's 12, 14-hour working days. No. Oh, that's
it's completely crazy. Completely crazy. Yeah.
No. The European Commission, we like you a lot. You are our friends. You are giving us so much money for all these kind of things and offering all kinds of opportunities. But please make it coherent also when it comes to when we apply for them. No, Maite, I had a question around this before I got angry. So the call round frequency, is that tied up to the subject category? So you have, or is it all 4 categories that has the same date?
No. Yes, you could find different dates for each sub-program, more or less. Yes, for example, this year we have at the beginning of September for the circular economy and quality of life, nature and biodiversity, but for climate change mitigation and adaptation, it was mid-September, no? And for clean energy transition is in November. November, it's a good deadline.
It's a wonderful deadline. Absolutely wonderful deadline. People are back from holiday. You have the time to you can do some work in summer.
Yeah.
And then the when it gets heavy, you have everybody back from holiday, so you can do the work you need to do. Now, And then is that the deadlines that are tied to specific sub programs? Do they fall like this every year for that sub program,
Not
or does it
exactly.
shift?
We suppose that next year will be quite similar, but it could change. Okay, so it's not exactly all the years the same date. No, no, it changed a little bit. Yeah,
Okay, listen out there.
yeah.
If anyone out there sitting with a big fat box of money and you want me to do this full time, I can do this. I will help everybody to do something with this. But I cannot do this when I'm doing it spare time. So if somebody wants to give me money to do this, please, by all means. No, Maite, we have to move on here
Yes.
because if we're just going to be angry all the time, it's going to be a very long recording. Let's move into, because the next sub bullet here, so that's the structure of the program. It should be covered. The target group. Let's have a talk about that. We already talked a little bit about it. It's difficult to split these things totally apart. But the target group, companies. What else? Public authorities.
Yes, yeah, it could be focused in private companies, also, yeah, as you say, in public authorities. Also, we found that startups are also interested in the program. And it could be any type of beneficiary. It's open to any type of beneficiary, and all of them are. I mean, it's like in Horizon Europe. No, you could find different funding rates if it's a company or a university, but here no, it's all the same. Okay, for any type of entities.
I think this thing we cannot really talk about without grabbing into the next sub bullet we have on how to apply and the funding rates, right? Because the target group, the funding rate is defining the target group. Because if you so you of course have defined the activities. It's a very much towards market funding scheme when it comes to the technology side, right? So it is indeed, it's shaped for private companies that has developed a solution either themselves or through another funding scheme to carry that out towards the market naturally. And then you have the public side that also use the funding schemes. Now the funding rate makes it, why do we not have universities here? Because universities don't like 60% funding rates.
No.
The universities are used to 100% in Horizon Europe. Universities, the research in general, they are terrified with 60% funding rates because they have to find the money somewhere else. It's not a private. They don't earn money themselves. They get unblocked money if it's public research universities. They often get unblocked money, of course, from the government, but private research sometimes have collaboration with the industry and so on, but still, they need to find the money somewhere. So it makes it, by the funding rate, the target group is sort of defined. And when it comes to the public side, how is that are they also funded 60%?
Yeah.
And here, I guess, the rationale, the idea behind is, say, look, you should do this anyways. We're just helping you with 60% of the money.
I mean, in the case of the public authorities, they carry out in the life projects more or less the usual activity, that they are not carry out so many extra things, for the life. They have like roles that are very related with policy recommendations or some parts in the dissemination and communication activities to involve, for example, a neighborhood or of a city. So, I mean, what they are requested is something that maybe they more or less it's their usual activity, in some sense. But it's very difficult to involve them in the projects because
Yeah, it is. And you know what you talk about because you've
yeah,
been doing this for many years. I did it shortly. I wrote one live proposal. It was an Italian company that had made a technology that could what was it? They could thread rice hay from rice production. Yeah, that's very difficult. And there, I remember because they had the solution, right? So it was there,
yeah,
So, but to do the dissemination parts of it, then I think P&O was we were partners, dissemination partner, and then we sort of massaged the budget a little bit so we wouldn't hurt us so much. It is a difficult one. So that's the
yeah,
only one I sat with. It's difficult to sell
yeah,
the funding scheme.
yeah. It's good.
It is.
Yeah, maybe in the case of the integrated projects, the strategic integrated projects, it's quite clear, okay, because also they have to demonstrate that they have mobilizing other funds, okay, although they receive the 60%, they have to mobilize like regional and national funds, no? So they have also
Yeah.
like a co-funded, no? The activities could be co-funded. So
Did we talk about that?
no.
But then let's just wind a little bit back to the strategic projects. Or do you think it is related to how to apply?
No, maybe in how to apply we could see this point. Yeah.
Good. Well, let's jump right And
into
here I will be fading out of the first part of this double episode introducing the live program. The second part of this double episode will be released next Monday. Here, Maite will continue to run through the introduction of the program. There, we move into how to apply, evaluation regime, what happens when funding is received, and finally some do's and don'ts. You can look forward to that. Until then, you can check out my website, thegrant.eu, where you will find the full back catalogue of episodes of this podcast. See you next week for second half.